All right. Good morning again, everyone. Thanks to everyone for joining us today for our question and answer session today. So, this is the Wellbeing Puzzle, continuing the conversation. This is our live question and answer with myself. I'm Lindsay Moran, and this is Kate Newmer. And we are the registered dietitians here at Connect Care 3. So, we are really excited to get a chance to uh, chat with you all today. Where this is a new form of presentation style for us, and we're really excited about it because if we think it'll really give everyone the chance to get questions answered that they might have and really be a great opportunity to engage with you guys. So we're looking forward to it. So really to set the stage for today, we want to hear from you. This is going to be very conversational, very informal. We did have some questions come in prior. We have we have some answers already prepared based on the things some people had submitted a few weeks back. But we also want to hear whatever questions you all have for us today. This is your time to ask, and Kate and I will do our best to answer everything as best as we can. Just a little note, some questions are very individualized. We may not be able to answer everything today in a general capacity, but we always encourage everyone to reach out to us privately if you'd like to, work one-on-one or have maybe some of those more individual questions answered. So this is a judgment-free zone. We'd love to hear your questions. We'd encourage you to type them into the chat box and share. Just make sure they're going to either everyone or all panelists so that Kate and I can see them. And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So as we'll wait and as questions come in, we'll answer. But while we're waiting for some of those to come through, we'll just get started with some of the questions we had gotten a few weeks ago. And with that, let's see if I can get my slide to progress here. All right. Do you want to start us off, Kate?
Sure.
All right.
So like Lindsay said, this is very casual. Please feel free to even start, asking questions now. We are excited to answer what you want to know. But we did get some questions in advance from our survey, so we're going to go ahead and start tackling some of those. And you're welcome to ask questions if we're not answering them to your liking. Feel free to ask more in-depth questions to make sure we are reaching you and your needs. All right. So one of our first questions that we had received was what makes a balanced meal or snack? And we thought this was such a perfect question. A lot of times we can really overcomplicate nutrition, and we get a lot of really good in-depth questions, but sometimes it can be as simple as how do I make a balanced meal or snack? So up here, you're going to see a couple pictures just to help guide our conversation today. Um, Lindsay and I, we have different things that we recommend. And of course, one of those is going to include using our various food groups. So if you're around my age or maybe even older, you might remember the food pyramid. Do you guys remember that? Yeah. So it's now considered the My Plate, which you can see on our screen here. And it's the same concept. So we want to try to get a variety of food groups throughout the day. But really to make a meal or snack balance, Lindsay and I want to take it a step further and recommend that you try to aim for 3 food groups at a meal and 2 at a snack. The reason we suggest this is because just having one food on its own may not be quite as filling as we need. It's easy to maybe grab a banana, which is great and healthful. We want to keep encouraging that, but you might find that those carbs aren't enough lasting fuel for you. So we really want to encourage you to pair it with a protein or a heart healthy fat. Maybe you can see apples and peanut butter on here. Same with our meals, right? Like if I go home and I'm in a hurry, which can be often, pretty common night for a lot of us, it can be quick and tempting to maybe just make a quick bowl of pasta, but I'm not going to be as nourished. I'm not going to be as full or satisfied. So I want to recommend, like, can I grab a frozen veggie bag out of the freezer? Can I, have some protein in there, whether it be a plant protein or an animal protein? So if you can remember a simple few numbers, like 2 food groups at a snack and 3 at a meal, that can really set you up for success. And we've seen people do a great job at managing their blood sugar, even lose weight by using some of these concepts. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Good job, Kate. I think you covered a lot of that question. Like Kate had said, we had some of these come in earlier, and we had a couple really just about these basics, which is excellent because getting back to basics is, really where a lot of our nutrition comes in. We help people all the time with just learning and or relearning some of those basics and applying them to their daily life. So, really focusing in on how you can get a variety of different foods. Like Kate said, either two food groups at a snack, or three food groups at a meal, I think would be really helpful to most, maybe even a good starting point in your journey of improving your nutrition. Um, Not only does that ensure you're getting a wide variety of nutrients, it can also help you to feel more satisfied and full longer if you're struggling with that. I hear a lot of times like, oh, I just ate breakfast and I'm hungry an hour later. Well, let's look at your breakfast. Is it just giving you, maybe it's just one piece of fruit, like Kate said, like that banana or cereal or just a bowl of oatmeal? Or is there something, can we add to that? That can help to keep you feeling fuller for longer and more satisfied. It can also help with things like blood sugar. We had kind of, again, we had some of these questions about blood sugar come in. So I thought we would just share a quick, this is a very general representation. I want to say that flat out. This is not based on like specific numbers, but just in general. Our blood sugar responds a lot better when we are pairing our foods as well, and having, like, for example, a carbohydrate source alongside a source of fat or protein. We're going to see um, much more stable blood sugars and less of those blood sugar spikes. So, for example, let's say you just ate an apple or just some crackers, or, I'm thinking like pita chips or something on their own. We might see, as you see on this top graph, a bit more of a spike in your blood sugar. It's going to jump up a bit higher and then kind of come down fairly quickly as well. Um, and whereas if you were to take that um, pairing, thank you, Kate, lost my train of thought there. Pairing there with the peanut butter, or maybe it's crackers and hummus, or a vegetable with guacamole, or whatever the option may be. We're pairing that carbohydrate with a protein or a fat. We're going to see a much better glucose response, meaning we're less likely to have that high glucose spike or sugar spike, and where it's kind of going to go up gradually, come back down a little more gradually, and leave you feeling better. And also, if you're dealing with any sugar problems, that can be something to think about as well. So I see we have our first question coming on in. Thank you. Um, and so the question is, are plant-based proteins really better than animal-based proteins? That's an excellent question. And we actually have, it's funny that, because we had gotten a similar question previous or earlier on. And so we have a slide here with some images. And I'll say, and Kate, you can add to this. I don't want to keep rambling on without giving you a turn. But I would say really not, there's not one that's better than the other. The biggest difference um, is that most animal proteins are what we call complete proteins. And what that means is, proteins are made up of a bunch of like building blocks called amino acids. And most animal proteins contain all of those amino acids that our bodies can't make on their own. So they're called complete proteins. We need to get a lot of these amino acids from foods that we eat. Whereas some plant proteins aren't going to provide all of those amino acids. So again, they're maybe called incomplete proteins. You might hear, the good news is that by eating a wide variety of plant proteins, or even pairing up your foods, again, another reason to pair some foods, you can usually make a complete protein and make sure you're getting all of those amino acids. So I think of an example like rice and beans. On their own, beans is not a complete protein, rice is not a complete protein, um, but together they are. I'll let Kate take this next follow-up question saying that I thought animal proteins were higher in fat and cholesterol, and that is also correct. So thank you for continuing this conversation.
Course. And I really love the way Lindsay describes it because it's so important to know that plant proteins don't give us all those essential amino acids. So it's okay if we are a plant based eater, vegan, vegetarian, however you identify. However, we just want to always be asking ourselves, what might we be missing? And so it can be as simple as, okay, let me make sure I have rice and beans or, peanut butter and some nuts. And I really want to be getting more nutrition. So something we do want to caution with animal proteins is one, the overconsumption of them, especially ones that are higher in fat. So we are looking more at our processed animal proteins. Think of your deli meats, think of your some of your sausages, even things like cheese. Sadly, we live in such a cheese area over here in Lancaster County. But yeah, it's just something to think about. We want to try to, have more of the heart healthy fats. So it is recommended to consume fish twice a week if you are someone who eats fish. And if not, maybe we're getting those really good, powerful omega 3s from things like our nuts and our seeds. So there's room for all types of eaters at the table, is how we like to think about it. But yes, we do want to be mindful of the types of protein and their fat sources. Um, let's see. So we have some other questions here.
Yeah, looks like the next one is I'll read it out loud just in case not everyone can see it in the chat box, but it says, speaking of rice, is it true that reheating cold rice won't spike blood sugar as much as fresh cooked? And also, is there a real difference in eating brown versus white rice? So I can start with the first part. Reheating cold rice actually can make it more of what is called a resistant starch, which means it lowers its glycemic index. So yes, essentially it can have a bit of a not as large of an impact on your blood sugar as maybe that freshly heated rice would. Um, so that is something to consider. I don't know if you want to add to that at all.
I was thinking because we get this question a lot.
Yeah.
Like we're starting to kind of see it trending, like resistant starch or reheating starches. Like I've seen it with
Yeah.
potatoes, rice, like Lindsay mentioned.
Even like keeping bread in the freezer and then toasting it. I've had a couple clients ask about that lately.
Yep. And so we're big on like live your life how you're going to, certainly, but it is kind of neat to learn about these little tricks that sometimes we can use to help our nutrition. But we always want to remind people to, yes, this is true, but the same effect can happen by pairing. Let's say you don't want to reheat your rice, right? Let's say you want to eat it fresh, at least the first day. Um, the same blood sugar impact and benefit that we get from maybe reheating a resistant starch, we can also get by partnering our rice with some protein or maybe a slaw or cucumber. I'm thinking all the veggies.
Yeah.
I'm getting hungry. Or sugar snap peas, things like that. So, it's just good to kind of think about it on both sides. But we love that question, and we're seeing more come up about it, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, I think just to slightly add on to that a little more, Kate had mentioned, we as dietitians want to make it as easy and realistic as possible for people to make lifestyle changes that are going to work for them, and that are, also going to improve their health. So if reheating your bread or keeping your bread in the freezer and toasting it or reheating your rice is going to cause more stress, then it is just eating it regularly. I don't think, there are so many other ways to positively impact your blood sugar that, it's okay. It's just one tool in our toolbox, so to speak.
And to kind of finish up that question, and I see we skipped one, so we'll go back. Um, is there a difference between brown or white rice? So there is a slight difference in the fiber. So our brown rice has a little bit more fiber than our white rice. And so with fiber comes some other good key vitamins and minerals. So there's maybe a slight advantage to brown rice in that way. But really, if you're pairing your foods, again, that'll kind of hit home today. White rice is still a great nutritious option. And I think it gets villainized a lot, actually. And it doesn't need to be. So, there with rice, we're considering our portion or what we're having with it. But no, both can be an option, and that's a great question to think about the fiber content.
Yeah. I think sorry, I keep adding on to what you're saying. But I one thing I wanted to just kind of hit home is that there's a lot of times we get questions is this food bad? Is this food good? Is so on and so forth. I think it's really important to take a minute to say that there's not generally speaking, there's not really certain like, oh, you can or can't eat this. It's all about what you're doing, the uh, how you're pairing things, how your diet looks as a whole, rather than like, oh, is this? And I don't know if I'm doing a bad job of explaining. I know you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's very individualized based on your individual needs. Something that's good for one person might not good be the best option for the next. Um, and again, it all comes down to what your patterns are looking daily. Like, sure, chocolate might not be the most nutritious item, but if you have a piece of chocolate as a treat one day in the afternoon, like it might be okay as part of your whole diet. So I just wanted to bring that up.
I love that you share that because I think more people need to hear that and let that resonate for them. So I think that's awesome, Lynn. I want to make sure we don't skip. We had a question. So it's that this person says this question is for those who are weightlifters or dedicated exercise people. Way to go. Usually we are on a very precise diet. Any suggestions on balancing that lifestyle with a desk job? Ooh, that's tough. That's a great question. And I love that this person is trying to, inspire their motivation throughout the day. Um, I guess we'll take it from a nutrition perspective. I will say we have great health coaches on our team. So if you're asking from more of a weightlifting or exercise standpoint, you might be a great person to work with one of our awesome health or one of our really educated and supporting health coaches. But from a nutrition perspective, where maybe we sometimes see people kind of, I want to say fail, but maybe drop off of their goals a little, is one, picking goals that are sustainable, but also two, is fueling their workout. So the way, and you might know this, the person that's asking or anyone on who is, whether you're a walker at lunch or maybe you like yoga or maybe you're a swimmer or a dancer or a intense weightlifter or maybe you're just trying to find what you like. What we do suggest is making sure to fuel for your workout. And what that looks like is a little bit of carb before close to the workout. So we're looking at quick carbs. This is actually a time where we don't recommend pairing because we want that carb to be readily available in our body. And so, if you're a morning workout or an afternoon workout, about 30 minutes to your workout, let's try to get some carbs. Maybe it's some fruit. We've suggested applesauce cups. We're thinking very light and minimal. We don't want our stomach overly full. And this could go for the person who's going on a walk before lunch. We want to still get a little bit of carb in there to fuel our workout. And what that does is it allows our body to have energy while we're working out and not pull from our own muscle storage. So that's important, right? Especially if we want to build muscle. And then the follow-up fueling is important as well. So think about if you're at your desk job or you're working all day, think to yourself, did I have my carb and protein to fuel after the workout today? And that's an important component. Did I pack a lunch? Did I prep a snack? So we really recommend kind of planning ahead as much as you can, so that you are able to stick to your nutrition needs and your exercise goals. So I hope I've answered your question. If not, feel free to ask another or let us know how we can direct it a little more towards your needs.
Yeah. I think as I was listening to you, what I was thinking that you touched on at the end is that preparation and time to meal prep and grocery shop and is really helpful when you have to be on that precise diet, where you may not have as much like wiggle room with your schedule at work. So making sure that you do have things on hand, that you can, bring along with you and maybe eat at your desk and things like that really go a long way. Kind of again back to those basics, right? How can I meal prep? How can I make sure I am allotting enough time to eat my meals and my snacks as I need to throughout the day? That's all really, really important. So yeah, thank you for your question.
Yeah, we'll keep them coming. We'll
Yeah,
keep going through some of ours.
I think that was I think we covered the protein. So another question we had gotten previously was about antioxidants. And more specifically, this person had asked, what are the most important antioxidants? Um, so we thought we would touch on that again. But yeah, like Kate said, please send it. We love all these questions coming into the chat box. So if you think of any, feel free to send them. I also will say too, if you're uncomfortable sending to everyone, you can send it privately, and then only we will see it. So your name it will be anonymous to the group if that makes anyone more comfortable to share. Um, but antioxidants. So do you want to? Who would like to take a stab? I don't care. Okay, perfect.
The perfect time of year to talk about them, I would say, is, we're trying to fight off these colds and bugs, but they're important all year round. And the thing to know about antioxidants is that they are important nutrients to our body and they help to fight off things like free radicals. So maybe the word free radicals doesn't resonate for some of you. And if you do know what that is, that's great. But what they are damaging to our body. And so they happen naturally in the aging process, exposure to things in our life, sicknesses, illnesses. And so antioxidants are very helpful to kind of trying to keep it simple, clean up those free radicals. Um, so we often look at it from a food standpoint. Sometimes this question comes up and we do get questions about supplements and things. So, feel free to ask. But from a food standpoint, we definitely, you hear some of the big ones. So think of your colors, and that's why we have this picture here. It's kind of going back to the basics, like even what we tell our kiddos, right? Like, let's eat the rainbow, eat different colors. Um, and we're not talking Skittles here, we're talking fruits and veggies. Um, but that is because antioxidants have color. So think of beta carotene, which is orange. So we see that in carrots and we see that in some of our tomatoes and peppers. Think of vitamin C, what color comes to mind there. Even some of our purples and reds and greens. So it kind of goes back to our my plate we were talking about on our other slide. So think about, am I getting my 2 or 3 fruit servings a day? How am I doing on vegetables today? Did at least 2 of my meals have half a plate of vegetables? Is that something I could work on? Could I pull in a veggie as a snack? So these antioxidants are really beneficial to our body. And one other thing I'll add with that is coming from a food source, there's a lot of other minerals and vitamins that help those antioxidants absorb best in our body. So, we get people, and there's nothing wrong with doing this, but they might take like a vitamin C pouch every day. And this can certainly help to take the edge off when we're maybe fighting a cold or trying to kind of really load up on some of those antioxidants. But our best absorption rate and our best bioavailability is sometimes the word they use, meaning how we're going to absorb it, is going to come from our food sources. So even if you're using some of those supplements, this is maybe our gentle reminder to try to increase it. And cooking and frozen and canned, these can all be great options. So especially this time of year, don't feel like have to miss out if you're not eating as much of the fresh produce. Did I miss anything or anything you were thinking?
No, I think you got it. What phrase that comes to mind is like, and I might be getting it wrong, but like you can't out supplement a bad diet, or you can't something like that. So as much as those supplements, like Kate said, are there to help and can be really great additions, making sure you're getting a lot of these nutrients in general, antioxidants are not from your foods is really your best bet. So making sure, and we know that these statistics show a lot of Americans are falling short in getting their daily recommended servings of like fruits and vegetables and foods that are going to offer all of these antioxidants. So like Kate mentioned, just to reiterate, how can you include a little bit more of those? Is it a snack? Is it, one of your meals? What can you do to add some more color and fruits and veggies, as antioxidants are a really important part of a healthy diet? So thanks, Kate. It looks like we got another question about probiotics, and we actually had I'm going to skip a little bit because that was a question we had gotten prior as well. Um, we were going to talk a little bit about gut health, um, and probiotics definitely play a part in that. So this question is very general, but really just saying, did you talk about probiotics? So I'll just kind of jump on in. But if anyone has any more specific questions or follow-up questions, feel free to send them in as well. So gut health and probiotics, all things like that have been really popular lately. We've been getting a lot of questions about these. To start with probiotics, I'll just say, for those that may not know, our GI tract, our intestinal tract is filled with a lot of bacteria, both good and bad. And probiotics are essentially those good bacteria that can offer a lot of benefits to our body and to our gut health as a whole. So it's been very, um, uh, I don't want to say trendy because it's more than just a trend, but it's been very popular lately to, include probiotics in order to help your gut health. Introducing these good, making sure you're getting enough of these good bacteria, like I said, has a lot of those health benefits, can help with, your immune system, can help with any GI tract problems you may be having. But I always say with any and all supplement, probiotics included, you always want to double check with your doctor before introducing anything new, just because you never know. It might interact with the medication you're taking. You might have a condition that, for whatever reason, it wouldn't be appropriate. And that goes for any and all supplements. Now, the thing with probiotics is while they do come in supplement form, we can also get them from foods, which, as you heard on our last topic, we're always going to encourage getting these from foods first. So when I think of probiotics, I'm thinking anything fermented. Uh, so, kombucha is a popular drink right now that, you can get some probiotics from. Um, your like pickled items are going to be fermented and give you those probiotics. Uh,
One of my favorites is kefir, if
yeah,
you've ever had that, or like think of your Greek yogurts. Um, some of our other, international cuisines like kimchi is a
yes.
great probiotic.
Even sauerkraut is
Yep.
going to give you some of that fermentation. Um, so we usually say trying to incorporate, I know Greek yogurt's probably one that people find the easiest to incorporate in their diet, at least in terms of the clients that I work with, but that's a great source of your probiotics as well. And making sure you're eating these foods regularly throughout your week can be really helpful. Um, yeah,
I was going to add something, Linz, too. So sometimes when we get questions about probiotics, we either get people confusing them with prebiotics, or maybe they know what both are and they're kind of using both of those terms interchangeably, I guess. So just to kind of add to what you're saying, when we talk about probiotics, prebiotics come up as well. And prebiotics kind of set the stage for probiotics to work in our stomach. And so those also naturally occur in our food. So think of things like bananas, apples, your oats. So a lot of times we might be eating these foods naturally together. And again, kind of going back to our antioxidant question, that's the best way to go about it. But we certainly get people who ask us about probiotic supplements. And like Lindsay said, it is really important to be checking with your doctor. Some people shouldn't add more bacteria if they're, you know, immunocompromised or dealing with some gut health issues. There's also some considerations like probiotics are best stored refrigerated actually to keep the bacteria alive. There's different considerations even on types of probiotic strains or how much is in a supplement. So we're big believers in starting with food. And if you need that additional support for your gut health, like Lindsay said, working with your doctor and your dietitian or a nutrition professional is definitely the way to go. So we're glad you asked about that. It, I think the topic is trendy now. They've been around for so long and we're learning more about how our gut and brain interact together. And so it's just such a huge topic right now. We're glad people are asking and thinking about it.
definitely. Yeah, and I will say I just one last comment on that. We recently, and I had a client, and I'm not remembering now if it was yours or mine, but someone we had talked about mutually. And I just want to, I think a lot of times we think, oh, my gut isn't feeling well. I'm going to add probiotic and it'll feel better. And sometimes they can actually, for whatever reason, they can cause an opposite effect. They can for whatever reason, maybe it's the wrong supplement for you. Maybe, you should have checked with your doctor and it didn't make you feel good. But again, just another reason to always be checking with a doctor before adding anything because you don't want to do more harm than good. All right. Looks like we had okay, so kind of to jump back, we had talked a little bit about um, the exercise and an athlete and how we should fuel. Looks like that question was rephrased a bit. And it says, I'll rephrase the question. When you are bulking or cutting as an athlete, it usually involves either eating lots of carbs or being in a caloric deficit. And both of these can cause changes in energy levels. Any suggestions on how to keep a balance? Um, so I think if I'm understanding correct in your question, and thank you for rephrasing that so we can hopefully do a better job of answering it. Um, in terms of keeping a balance in your energy levels, um, it can be really challenging because the amount of calories that you are eating are likely going to contribute significantly to how energized you are feeling. It can certainly be challenging in those times when you are in a caloric deficit to feel well fueled and energized. So I think prioritizing the foods that you are able to eat with, making sure you um, are getting adequate, carbohydrates, looking at those macronutrients in your caloric deficit, making sure you're also doing things like getting good sleep, making sure you are fueling well, pre and post workout, uh, looking at kind of all aspects as a whole to like maximize that energy. Um, I will say too, if this is something you feel is like more specific and we do want to talk one-on-one, I'd encourage you to reach out to our team and we might be able to give you some more specific answers that way. And I don't know, Kate, if there's anything you want to add. Maybe will understand the question a little bit better than I did.
Yeah.
Did you read that?
And this person's so motivated. That's amazing.
Yeah, we love the questions. I just want to make sure you're getting a real, uh, like individualized answer.
So two, and I want to make it, definitely fit this person, but maybe someone else out there is also having some similar questions. So two of my strategies that I would recommend is definitely lean into your nutrient dense foods and what that term means. And maybe you know this if you're, really focused on health right now, but it means choosing foods that have less of a caloric impact, but high nutrition. So we're looking at foods that are going to fill us up, but maybe aren't taking, as many of your calories if you're in a calorie deficit for your goals. So, that kind of goes back to some of those simple methods. Like, if I'm at a desk job, did I pack, enough veggies for my day, enough fruit? Is my protein lean, right? If I'm having a lot of sausages to get my protein goal, okay, well, that's kind of eating up a lot of my other, calorie needs. Could I swap to, a leaner chicken or maybe add in some plant protein so that I'm getting the best of both worlds with some fiber and protein. So that's definitely one of my strategies is like definitely we want to try to add those nutrient dense foods in. I think we've all eaten out and you can see the nutrition on some of those menus or like, places that you might go and it can be pretty surprising. Like, oh wow, that meal was 1,200 calories. So not that we're always over here suggesting calorie counting, but it kind of leads me to my next point. If someone has a goal like that, we want to make sure they're eating enough, right? Like sometimes when we reduce our calories or have this goal of weight loss, it can be so easy to get focused on that we've actually worked with a lot of people who aren't nourishing enough. And so we sometimes will use tools like a 24-hour recall where we're asking you what you've been eating. We have done some food logging. We never want it to be obsessive, but it can certainly help us to get a better picture of what you're actually doing day to day. And so we've definitely had clients use those tools to help themselves throughout their day as well. My third and last strategy is also to remember to fuel and eat. And so for some people that if you're busy at work and a desk job, I feel like sometimes it can consume you. Like you're so lasered in, you have a deadline, or someone needs something from you. It it may be almost you may have to treat it like an appointment. Like I've had people schedule, make sure they go for lunch or stop and take a lunch break or, put a reminder in their calendar like, hey, it's snack time. Um, so I hope that answers your question, that person that asked. And I agree with Lindsay. Feel free to call in and work with one of us as well, because, I think a lot of times people think, oh, I have to have maybe be ill or have something going on to work with us, but that's not true. We want to help people at all phases of their health journey. So, great question.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time to ask that. Doesn't look like we have any more at this point, so I'm gonna backtrack back to where we left off on our pre-answered question. And it looks like that leads us in. We had just finished with antioxidants. Now, our next topic, we had a lot of questions about some of the more popular nutrition trends, things that are really being talked a lot right now. So, we're going to dive into some of those. And the first one, which we're sure you all have heard of, is a very hot topic right now, is regarding GLP-1s. In other words, these are, people might hear of them as medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, Manjaro, these medications that are used to help um, type 2 diabetes, but are also now being used to assist with weight loss. So we've been getting a lot of questions, hearing a lot about these, so we figured we should definitely address them. And so we'll take a few minutes to talk through some of these. But if while we're talking, you have more specific questions about them, let us know, and we'd be happy to hear them. Um, so we'll start with, what do we know about these medications? And we know a lot. So they've actually been around for a long time in terms of not, I shouldn't say a long time, about 20 years was when they first started being approved for diabetes. Weight loss, they were more recently approved for, which is why it is we've seen this huge boom. But what these do is they can help in a few ways to increase, or I'm sorry, they're going to help our body produce and use more insulin, helps to reduce our appetite a bit, which can help with that weight loss component. Um, as you know, can help with those blood sugar levels. It has actually a lot of other benefits as well. I don't know if I'm missing any that you want to. Yeah, those are the big ones. So these are usually seen as injectable medications. People are, getting like a pen that you would use either weekly or changes. Each medication is a little bit different. And again, it's either for that diabetes or the use of weight loss. Now, these impact nutrition, I hear a lot. The biggest thing I hear my clients say is that they are feeling miserable. They're having a lot of side effects, nausea, and really unable to eat much. And that's really challenging when we hear about these medications because we want to make sure you're still able to stay well nourished and get the calories, protein, fats that your body needs to thrive, while also, effectively losing weight and helping your blood sugars as well. So I think that's the biggest challenge nutritionally is making sure that we're still prioritizing things like protein and getting enough calories and making those additional lifestyle changes that we know are going to be um, helpful in your overall health journey. So we get a lot of questions, how can I still manage to eat on this? And, for some, you're going to have to take a close look and say, like, am I eating enough? We'll do some food logging to make sure calorie counts are appropriate. We're going to do things like prioritizing protein with each meal to make sure you're not losing too much muscle, and all of these things make sure it's really the best choice for you. Um, so yeah, I'll let you jump on in.
Yeah, and I see we have two comments and questions. So someone mentioned that it's making it hard for those with type 2 diabetes to find the medications now. Yeah, and I think that's important to note, especially as Lindsay shared with the history of these medications and how they started, but also that helps us understand what they help people with, right? So there's a lot of times we hear how pre-diabetes can go undiscovered for sometimes up to 10 years before someone develops diabetes. And so, you know, we're kind of watching just like the rest of you on how this will unfold and how this will become more available for diabetes, but also as an option, whether that be compound or different, dosage, which is a hot topic now too. And so we're watching with you to see. Oh, lots of great questions.
Yeah, they're popping through.
Another one related to this, so I'll answer that one first. Is there a set caloric intake for anyone taking these medications, or is it specific to each person? Great question. If you Google it, you'll probably get one answer, which we don't love that. So we do prefer, and that's actually something I like to recommend if you are on a GLP-1 and have access to, we do really recommend at least one session, but probably more with a nutrition professional, a health coach, and that's because it is so individualized. So there isn't one recommended caloric intake. When we're working with clients, we really take into account your height, your weight, your age, your gender, your goal. Even with calories, that tells us the rate of weight loss. We don't want people losing too quickly and then they're losing all their great muscle mass that they might already have. We also look at your activity. So maybe you're doing some resistance training, maybe you're doing some cardio. So it's very individualized. And like Lindsay said, it's pretty common with how some of these medications, which is their purpose, they can lower some of that food noise for people, but then that drive to eat may be less. So under eating is pretty common at times, depending on different dosages. Um, Great question.
And yeah, so I don't know if there's any, we did get another question on a different topic. So I think maybe we'll finish up with GLP-1s and then we can go to the um, next question if that works with you. Yeah, but I think to go back, like Kate said, caloric intakes, whether you're on one of these medications or not, are all very individualized. So we would never recommend just a blanket statement caloric intake um, for anyone, whether or not you're taking this med or not. Um, and I know we have here as a bullet point, what do we suggest with these? And I'll say, really just doing your research, talking to your physician, making sure you're making an educated decision before you do decide to go on one of these medications. And if you do, which it is can be a really great tool for some, just making sure you have the support to do so in a healthy way. Maybe try reaching out to see if you can work with a dietitian or other nutrition professional to make sure you're also making important lifestyle changes and doing the best you can with these medications and working closely with your doctor. If you are experiencing side effects, seeing if we can lower a dose or, make other changes. I just think it's really important to know, it's not like, here, take this Ozempic and have a great time. You need that support. You need those professionals to really help you along the way. And that would be like my overall suggestion on the topic.
And if you happen to be listening and you are currently on one, whether for diabetes or for weight loss, some of our tips might include smaller but more frequent eating points because your fullness feeling is going to hit you a lot quicker than maybe it normally would. And so to get the best nutrition, trying to space it out is definitely one of our suggestions. We want to try to partner all of our meals and snacks with protein when we're on really any time, but
Yeah.
especially when we're on these GLP-1. We want to consider our fiber intake. So fiber can work similarly, not to the extent of GLP-1s, but they work similarly as to what a GLP-1 does in our body. So making sure whether you're on one or not, that our fiber intake is looking good as well. So these are all kind of things we look at when we work with some of our clients. And then of course, thinking about, I love what Lindsay talked about, thinking about all sides of your health and, are we hydrated? What are we doing for movement and to preserve our muscle mass? And how are we balancing the mental side of the changes that we're going through with our body and with starting a medication like this? So um, it can be pretty all encompassing. So I like that Lindsay touched on getting that support from your medical care team and the people around you. So,
And all right, so we'll move on to our next question. I'm going to go back to our protein slides. Doesn't really matter, but just so that it's more on point with what we're talking about. And this next question was, if wishing to pivot to a more vegetarian diet, how to determine how much of the plant-based protein to eat for a proper serving. They asked, is there an equivalency chart that is available? And they're also interested in comments about certain combinations that are more positive, like rice and beans together, maybe some other examples. So, in terms of pivoting to a more vegetarian diet and determining how much of based protein to eat for a proper serving, I think maybe the first step there would be to determine, maybe your total protein needs for the day. And then we can, break that down by how many grams of protein should be uh, consumed at each meal or snack. So that would be a bit more individualized. But just generally speaking, what I might do is look up, I believe My Plate might be a great place to look for this. So if you go to um, www.myplate.gov, I believe, is the right um, website. They have a lot of lists of charts for protein. You can find a protein food chart, and there will be a list of foods and their equivalences, or how much each serving is considered one equivalent or one protein serving. I apologize if I misspoke on that. I think it's important to note that plant you're likely going to need to eat a larger volume of plant protein foods than you would animal protein foods to maybe reach those goals. Like a 4 ounce or serving of chicken might be about like 30 grams of protein, whereas a cup of rice and beans might only be, 6 or something around there. So you're going to make some changes. It's going to take some planning. But looking at that chart and that equivalency, those equivalences can be really helpful in comparing each food and how much of each food you would need. So again, it's that myplate.gov website. I believe if I'm thinking right, you'll go to the protein section, scroll down a bit, and there should be a place to click on a chart or some list of protein foods if that's helpful.
I like the question about more pairings too. So yeah, rice and beans is kind of a go-to answer. We also find it together a lot. It's very delicious. Some other great pairings. Quinoa with beans is a great pairing. Quinoa itself actually has a great, like when you look at the nutrition breakdown, great amount of protein, essential amino acids that Lindsay talked about. So it's a very powerful grain. So if you like quinoa, something as simple as peanut butter with whole grain bread could be a complete pairing. What else am I missing? Oh, pita and hummus. Yep, complete pairing.
I also sometimes think of like a trail mix because you're getting a variety of different nuts and seeds, maybe even grains in there that usually together will make, depending on what's in it, but usually you can make a pretty complete protein.
Yes, that's a great one. I always forget about nuts. And then lentils was the other one I wanted to say. And lentils and beans. So I think about this time of year with like a chili, like you could add lentils and beans, and there you have a complete protein. So, um, oh, sorry, 1 second. We're just making sure everything's working. Can you guys still hear us? Okay. Thanks, Claire. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Um, Wonderful. So we hope that helps with some more pairing ideas. But like Lindsay said, the My Plate is a great resource to use. So definitely make sure you're going to that website, looking at the portions, and when you're eating vegetarian, definitely make sure you're adding multiple grain options, beans, lentils, and those sorts of things.
Yeah, right. And I think also wanted to mention, and you might have said this, and I apologize if I missed it, but soy is another one that's a complete protein as well, that's vegetarian based. So think like any soy product, tofu, edamame, that's going to give you that complete protein too. Um, Great question. Hope we answered it. All right. Keep sending them in just to give a little time warning to everyone. We have about 9 minutes left. We have a few questions left on, that we had gotten prior to today that we will try to work our way through, but we do want to prioritize any questions that come in live. So if we do have any more, we'd love to answer those. If not, we'll just continue through these, the questions we got earlier, and we'll go from there. And we have about 9 minutes left. Hopefully we can get through another few questions.
All right. And someone is interested about supplements. This is perfect. Um, all right. So what should we know about supplements? I feel like this is such a big topic. I'm glad we can talk about it because we do get a lot of questions as dietitians, especially. I'm sure doctors do as well, or even nurses sometimes. Um, but there's a lot to know. So let's start broad and we can definitely kind of hone in if you guys have more specific uh, questions about what we're saying. So the first thing we want to talk about is that starting supplements isn't something we just want to do kind of, I'll say, willy-nilly. Treat it like a medication. So we do want to always be communicating what we're taking with our doctor. In case there are any medication interactions, some supplements do not interact well with certain medications. I always think of grapefruit, like for those types of vitamins, or vitamin K if you're on a blood thinner. And so, just supplements, I think sometimes seem so easily attainable that we may not always think of them at that tier, but we do want to be responsible about it and communicate what we're taking with our doctor as well. The other thing to know is supplements are not necessarily regulated by our governing bodies. So, a lot of times that brings pause to people because, how are these supplements being checked? What are kind of the checks and balances going into place to make sure that when I buy the supplement every time I'm getting that same quality, that same mixture? Um, and then also, considering like what do the supplements do for you? Like what is your goal in taking the supplement? And that's kind of some of the questions we might ask you if we're working with you or our clients. And so some things that I'm pretty big on is recommending that not only are we sharing with our doctor what we're considering, but we're also looking for supplements that are third party tested. And what this means is companies that sell supplements, they can allow their labs, their mixtures, their supplement to be reviewed by third parties, which are which were created to kind of be a check and balance. So they actually review the quality of the supplement, the ingredient, is what's in it actually the amount and actually what is in it. And so a lot has come a long way in terms of helping to make supplements a little bit more regulated, but we still like to bring up um, that thought, that they're not all regulated. So we definitely want to be, communicating with our doctor, seeing if they're third party tested. And how we can do that is we can go online and check the website. So if you're interested in, I don't know, use Thorn as a good example of a supplement company. We can go on and read about them and see, what are they doing to assess their quality. We can also look. So sometimes they have like stamps on and you guys might have noticed this if you're taking supplements. Sometimes it's like LabCorp is a stamp on our supplement package, or NSF, it's like a triangle, might be stamped on our package, which tells us that they're third party certified. Um, and then my other big suggestion, and I'll see if Lindsay has things to add, is to talk with your doctor as well. Are some of the supplements you're taking labs that you could be getting done? Before I take a vitamin D, maybe I want to know what my vitamin D levels are. Not all of our supplements, some of our supplements are water soluble, which means if we take too much, we might, they might come out as we use the bathroom. And it's okay. They're not quite going to build up. Other ones are fat soluble and they will build up in our system. So things like vitamin A and E, D, and K are ones that we may not want to take as kind of willy-nilly. So that's kind of my third thought is think about, it may not be everything that you're getting tested for. That could certainly be expensive, but is there any that are maybe already on a regular panel or something I could ask my doctor about? So that's kind of a broad, maybe my top three suggestions. I don't know, Lynn, do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I would say just to kind of add on to what you said, all of what you said is great. I think a lot of times what I'm hearing lately is people kind of seeing supplements as a quick fix. Um, and I think to just be cautious, right? Like Kate said, you know, try and get labs done. See if, maybe we don't need to be taking a supplement for vitamin D if your vitamin D level is already within a normal range. Have those conversations because not only do you not want to be taking things that are unnecessary, they're expensive. Nobody wants to be spending extra money when you may not necessarily need to. And I think also going back to them not being regulated, a lot of times we're not even really positive on the benefits of these supplements, right? There are whole aisles of supplements in stores, whole stores dedicated to supplements. Um, and that sometimes there isn't even the best scientific evidence behind all of them to say, like, this is going to work for whatever ailment that it's, claiming to improve. Um, and it can be overwhelming. There's a lot of options, there's a lot of information out there. So again, utilize those resources that you have, whether it be your doctor, a nutrition professional, reaching out to one of us, to really make sure you're getting, the best bang for your buck. I also, a few years back, I had a client who came to me with a list of supplements they were taking. And when we really dove deep, I mean, a lot of them, we were seeing overlapped ingredients. So supplements, that maybe have the same ingredient in multiple. So this person was getting way more of some of these ingredients that they probably should have been having. So just, being mindful of some of these things can really go a long way. Um,
It's hard.
it
I
is.
would say that there's so much info. Like sometimes we get questions about the green powders or the fruit and veggie capsules, and like there's so much info we're seeing, and usually what I'm always thinking is people want to improve their health, and that's always my takeaway when we get these questions. So we're just here to truly share, a couple things to think about, like Lindsay's saying, before we maybe just jump right into those options. So yeah, I think that's so great. You were able to like look at it with your client and say, wow, maybe, talk with your doctor. You might not need all these overlaps. So it can be easy to do for sure. There's so much information out there, which is why we're so glad we could chat with everyone today. This has been so great.
This has been great. And we do apologize we weren't able, I think we're missing uh, maybe one last question. And, we had not gotten to every pre, whoops. Oh, I didn't mean for that to go crazy on you there. We had a few other questions we had gotten prior that we didn't get a chance to answer, but that's great. That means we had a lot of participation today, which is what we wanted. So we do thank you for your time, and we encourage you all, go to our last slide here. If you are interested in working one-on-one with us, if you have further questions, reach out to us here at Connect Care 3. You can give us a call or send an email to work with Kate or myself or any of our team of health coaches or nurses. So we would love to have you guys reach out if you'd like. And again, thank you so much for your time. Happy holidays. Hopefully we can do another one of these in the future for more questions as well.
This has been so fun. Stay healthy and be happy. Happy holiday.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.